Hello and welcome to today's video. Today's video is all about the 3 things every photographer needs at least 2 of. So I'm going to share with you these little tidbits kind of things that aren't real huge, but they'll make a huge difference in your preparedness and success as a photographer. So let's get started. So these 3 things, what could they be? You're probably thinking maybe it's lenses. Yeah, you should have a couple of those. Maybe it's camera bags. Yeah, you can't ever have too many of those either. Maybe it's tripods. Yeah, I have more than 2 of those as well. But that's not what I'm thinking about. These things I'm thinking about are kind of the non-sexy but super important things. Even though they're relatively small, they're going to have a huge impact on your success as a photographer, on your preparedness as a photographer. So let's get into the list. Here's thing number 1. Thing number 1, we'll start with the smallest and work our way up. So thing number 1 is memory cards. You can never have almost too many of these. These guys are tiny. You got one with your camera probably, and maybe that's the only one you have. And if that's true, you're probably living on borrowed time because as they say about memory devices, it's not a matter of when they're going to fail. It's just a matter of if. No, wait, I always do that backwards. Sorry. It's not a matter of if they're going to fail. It's a matter of when. I have, what are those called? Metaphor? No, that's not a metaphor. Well, anyway. So, having said that, I have never had one fail. So I've been fortunate. What I have had is filled up the contents, and now I can't take any more photos. So I've had that happen. So these are relatively inexpensive. So let's talk about my suggestions on getting these, maybe a little bit about care and feeding as well of these. So I've been using SanDisk. That's the brand I've used, not sponsored by them, but it's a brand I've had the most success with. They just seem to work. I've been using them over 15 years. I haven't had a failure in the drive. In my experience, you don't need the fastest speed. As you can, let's see if I can get this to focus. The card I'm holding is a 64 gigabyte capacity, and it is 95 bytes per second, 95 MBS. I've used these for a long time. That's the speed rating is the bytes per second. And 95 is now kind of the slowest you can find. And these go for 64 gigabytes. They're not very expensive. They're about $20 when I'm recording this in April of 2021. So good price, good value. Throw a bunch of these in, you're good to go. Yeah, they'll fill up faster, but even 64 gigabytes is a lot of photos. Next up, you go to the next speed is 170 megabits. I have a couple of those cards. Is what I'm using in my video camera that I'm recording with. 256 gigabytes of capacity, which is a lot. Goes for about $100. So you get faster and more capacity for more money, but it's still, this is relatively inexpensive storage these days. They even make these at 300 megabits if you're recording maybe 8K video, or you have a camera that shoots 30 frames a second. Those go for about $190, $200 for 128 gig capacity. And I just, as I was looking around for these, they even make these in 1 terabyte now. 1 terabyte, 170 meg speed for about $400. Yeah, a terabyte, teeny tiny. My first hard drive was 40 gigabytes back in 1991. 40 gigabytes, friends, and before that it was floppy disks. I've been around. Okay, so a couple care and feeding suggestions for these. Have a couple of these. If you're doing a paid gig, especially, you should have 3, 4 or more of these. Again, potentially cover failure. 2, to cover, hey, I filled one of these up. I find 64 to 128 gig capacity is plenty for me. I don't use these as permanent storage and don't recommend you do as well. Again, that's not what these are designed for. These are temporary storage devices. So take your photos, get them to your computer as fast as you can, and then make some backups. I also recommend not formatting these or erasing contents on the computer. What that'll do is introduce some OS, operating system, computer OS files onto your drive, which could potentially fight with your camera OS. I always format these in camera and wait to format these in camera until I have at least 2 copies of this stuff. So I have an original and 2 copies. So that's my practice, and I'll talk more about that when we get to thing 3. All right, so memory cards, get a bunch of them. They're relatively inexpensive, especially as photography gear goes. And if you need to, you can drop down to your local Best Buy and pick one up, or Costco, or whatever place you prefer to buy those kind of things from. All right, thing number 2 that I recommend every photographer have at least 2 of. And they're super important as well, and they're not very large, but they are camera batteries. Camera batteries. Especially if you have a mirrorless camera, you're going to go through batteries more for a couple reasons. One, the mirrorless cameras just are always drawing more current because they're always powering the sensor. They always got a screen being powered as well. The bodies tend to be smaller, so therefore the batteries are physically smaller, which means they don't hold as much cells for power, which means if you're running more power and have less access to it, you're going to need more batteries. As a Fujifilm user, I think I have 7 or 8 extra batteries. I don't need that many all the time, but at least I'm a little on the I'd rather be over prepared than under prepared side. So if I do a full day wedding, I'll go through, let's say I'm taking about 2,000-ish photos. I'll probably go through about 5 batteries. So 400 photos per battery is what I usually end up. So again, on a professional gig, don't, it'd be a bummer if, oh, I can't take your photos today, my battery's dead. And that'll happen to me. I have extra, where you get your camera out, and you go to take a picture and the camera's dead. The battery that was inside because you forgot to charge it. So I always, all my camera bags, I have 2 or 3, they all have an extra battery in them, just in case. And I try and remember to charge those once a month. Sometimes they lose a little charge just sitting around, but I try and remember to charge them up once a month. So the other big question you're probably wondering, Michael, what should I do between original equipment manufacturer batteries or third-party batteries? Personally, I have used third-party batteries both when I did when I was using Nikon and when I'm using Fuji. I've used Watson batteries that I've had good luck with. One thing I do notice, I do save lots of money. They're less than half price from the OEM, but I notice they last almost as long. So let's say if the Fuji does 400, these will do 370-ish photos, but when I get down to 1 bar on the battery meter, I've got about 3 photos left. So it'll go quickly from 1 bar to no bars. So just be aware of that. They tend to, when they get to I have almost no power, they go to no power really quickly in my experience. Having said that, if you're buying a $2,000 camera, why save 30 bucks on a battery? Just, again, peace of mind. It doesn't hurt to go with the original equipment stuff. So get a couple extra batteries, cover yourself there. Again, that's one of those things, in addition to memory cards, you just can't have too many of. All right, so we're on to item number 3, thing 3 in our list of stuff that everybody with one of these should have at least 2 of. Are you ready? What do you think it is? All right, I kind of alluded to it when I was talking about backup. You should have multiples of these. You should have at least 2 of these. Not necessarily this specific one, but you need extra hard drives. Even more so, I think, than these, the volatility of data on these spinning hard drive disks, they're just gonna sometimes say goodbye. And I had that happen a couple of years ago. I was backing up my data on these portable hard drives, and I would change them out about once a year, year and a half as capacities would increase. And I had 2 copies, and here's what happened. I had 2 hard drives backups. One drive failed. I wasn't too concerned because I had the backup, but in the process of copying the backup drive, the backup also died. So I was totally lost, 100,000 photos. I had a client project in process. So I sent it off to one of those hard drive saver places. They were able to recover the data. I had to ask them, can you split this across 2 credit cards? It was a chunk of change, but I needed the data back. So, yeah, you're going to want to have copies of your copies. Here's my current backup strategy. So all my data lives in 3 places. I have an original, so it's on this drive, my video and photos. And then there's 2 copies. There's backup 1 and backup 2 for all this data. So it lives in 3 places. For my hard drive, my main computer drive, that's backed up in 4 places because I also do an online backup just because there's a little less content and I'm not going to hit my Comcast data cap. I have, like I said, 7-8 terabytes of content that would take multiple days of, well, multiple months of uploading to get all this content to the cloud. So I'm content right now with physical local copies. The software I use to manage this, I use on a Mac Carbon Copy Cloner to back up my hard drives. I run it regularly. I do it manually. I'll explain that in a second. And then I use Backblaze for online storage of my backup of my my main computer contents. I've discovered, since I have so much stuff running on USB, that these 4 drives will, if I leave my Mac alone for like 30 minutes to a half an hour, they'll disconnect from the hub. And then they'll reconnect. There's actually there'll be the error that says hard drive disconnected, but they're still on the desktop. So that makes me a little nervous about why they're powering down, powering off. So I now have them on a smart plug where I turn them all on at once as I need them. And I don't need them every day because I'm not always doing photo video every day. So I just turn them on as I need, turn them off when I know I'm going to be gone for a little bit longer time. I have a new hub on order that hopefully will solve that power issue. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it's just too much stuff for the system to support and keep powered on all the time. I don't know. If you have any suggestions on keeping multiple Mac hard drives connected to the computer during inactive times, and I've tried all the things, I'd love if you leave a comment below. Yeah, so if you have suggestions about other backup solutions, storage options for managing lots of data across potentially multiple drives, I would be so glad to receive your input. I haven't found a solution I love. I have a solution that works, fits in the budget. So if you have suggestions, please add them to the comments. I'd greatly appreciate it. So those are my 3 things that everyone with a camera should have at least 2 of. What are yours? What else? What did I miss? So if you have thoughts, again, please leave them in the comments. I'd love to we'll maybe make a version 2 of this video down the road based on your comments and suggestions. So if you don't already have at least 2 memory cards, 2 batteries, 2 hard drives for your data, make that a priority. Go get that taken care of. It's not super expensive as far as photography things go, and it will leave you prepared, looking professional, and give you tons of peace of mind. So, hope that helps, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Maybe something controversial, we'll see. So until next time, have fun out there creating photos, and stay safe, stay well. Get your vaccine when you can. Mine's going to hopefully be available starting sometime next week. And then we'll go from there as a community of people hopefully traveling again. So take care. I'll see you soon.